everyone. Thanks for joining Albert Whitman for this AW Author Chat. I'm Lisa White, Associate Manager, Marketing Publicity at AW, and today I'm chatting with author Sheila Bair. Sheila Bair has had a long and distinguished career in finance, academia, and government. She's perhaps best known as the chair of the FDIC during the 2008-2009 financial crisis, when she was twice named by Forbes magazine as the second most powerful woman in the world. A lifelong advocate for strong financial regulation and consumer protections, Sheila is also the author of New York Times bestseller Bull by the Horns, which is her memoir of the financial crisis, and is a frequent op-ed contributor and TV commentator, as well as the author of several children's books on financial matters, including our books Isabel's Car Wash and Rock, Brock, and the Saving Shock. So Sheila has a new series debuting this fall 2021 with AW, Money Tales, which helps readers understand financial concepts through kid-friendly exploration of loans, interest, and debt. This new series is an accessible starting point for educators and guardians who want to teach children financial literacy. The first two books are Billy the Borrowing Bluefoot Booby and Princess Persephone Loses the Castle, which publishes September 2021. Welcome, Sheila. Do you mind
Thanks, Lisa.
Do you mind sharing more about what each of these books in the Money Tale series is about?
Sure, yeah. Well, Billy the Borrowing Blue-Footed Booby, I love that title.
So cute.
It's about a little blue-footed booby on the Galapagos Islands who likes to nap after his lunch, but it's always raining on him. So he wants to go buy an umbrella. And he goes to a very sly storekeeper, a seal, who sells him, it says he can buy an umbrella for 10 sardines, which is what they use as money on the Galapagos Islands. And this obviously very fictional story. And Billy doesn't have the 10 sardines. So the seal says, well, I'll lend the money to you basically, but in a week you have to pay me 20 sardines instead. So Billy takes that deal because he just really wants that umbrella. And then, of course, the next week he finds something else he wants to buy from selling seal. So then the debt goes up to 20, and then it goes up to 40, and then it goes up to 80, and then it goes up to 160, because every week he finds something else he wants to buy instead of repaying his debt. So it's a story about how don't borrow really unless you need to. And if you do borrow, pay it back on time, because if you don't, it's just going to run up into a lot more money. And also to be a little wary. People need to protect themselves and have their eyes open and don't do impulse buys. And at the end of the story, he ends up losing all these wonderful things he bought because he can't pay his debt. But then he finds a more responsible vendor who sells him an umbrella for 5 sardines. So there's a happy ending to the story. So that's Billy. And then Princess Persephone Loses the Castle. That's also about unwisely borrowing money and then not paying it back. So in this case, she actually takes out a home improvement loan so she lives on an ice planet, Ganymede, and it's cold. And she's lonely, and her dad's off on some business out in space. And so the aluminum gem comes by to sell some siding for the castle. And she says, boy, this sounds great. It's going to keep her warm. And so she just signs on the dotted line. Signs up for a mortgage that's got really, really hideous interest and fees, etc. Doesn't understand she can't afford it. And so she gets the siding. It's cheap. It doesn't work. And then she starts getting the bills for her mortgage payments, and she can't make them. So she ignores them and, of course, loses the castle. It's the name of the story. And but then she is rescued at the end by Anna, your pal, who's a good, tough financial regulator, like I used to be, or at least I hope I was.
I feel like when I read the book, that thing, I was like, I feel like this might be based on someone we know.
That's right. So yeah, channeling a little bit of myself into Anna, your pal. But so anyways, Anna gets her castle back, and then she grows up years later and becomes she realizes her mistake and becomes a lawyer years later, and goes around and protects other consumers like Anna, your pal had done. So those are basically the 2 books in a nutshell.
Yeah, and the thing I love about both of these books is these are concepts that I've, even as an adult, have struggled to learn, and sometimes, seen friends or myself learn the hard way. So seeing this in, a kid's book, it would have been great when I was younger to see these examples, because they are common things that people experience when you become an adult.
They are. They absolutely are. Yeah.
So what inspired you to actually write the Money Tales series?
Yeah. So because I have been a financial regulator and a mother, I have just seen people so often take advantage of. I think, let's face it, the financial services sector is some really good, responsible bankers and lenders in the financial services sector, but there are also people who will take advantage of you, or even legitimate products if they're misused, like a credit card. Classic example, if you don't pay it every month, that interest can really pile up, as well as late fees. So I've seen people get in trouble. And financial hardship creates emotional distress. It strains marriages. The kids are aware of it. It just creates so many problems for families. So I do think we need a combination of very strong regulation. And we have a Consumer Protection Bureau now, which helped to inspire Persephone, which is great. But people need to protect themselves too, because the government can't be everywhere. And so I do want people to protect themselves. And I think there are basic concepts like compounding that you can introduce at a very early age. That is just so central to any foundational knowledge of financial management. And I also have found that, since my husband and I love to read, and we love to read picture books with our kids when they were small. And I know parents read these books with their children. And I think the parents actually pick up some things, or maybe they're reminded of things that they could do better in their own financial management by reading these books with the children. And it precipitates good conversations. Children, even at a very early age, they get money. I mean, come on, preschool, they're getting money already. So they get it. And I really try hard to make these books fun and funny. They're not didactic. They're not lecturing. They're just, fun. And it's just showing people making silly mistakes that we can all identify with, but hopefully will inspire us to be smarter in our own management, money management.
Definitely. And I do really love also in Princess Persephone that she does get help from an outside source.
Yes.
I think a lot of
Yes.
people with financial issues, especially if they have never used a financial planner or worked with anyone, they don't realize that they can ask for help
They can
and
get help.
actually
That's
get
right.
help from organizations and groups. So they feel like they're just on their own. So I think that's a great example in the book that maybe adults might even know and learn from.
Exactly. Yes.
And I loved also, yeah, the borrowing on a credit card thing. I feel like that's something that a lot of people I know did when they were younger and then learned the hard way. So
Yeah.
this could stop a few kids from making that
Oh,
mistake.
yeah. No, I was one too. I remember my first credit card right out of college, and boy, this was great. And then I got another one and another one. So
No
one
interest
credit
for a
card. Ever since
while.
then, one credit card.
I'll pay it
That's
off
easy to do.
before that.
We all have those stories, unfortunately. Why I want to write these books.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what is a common misconception that adults might make when it comes to kids and financial literacy?
So I think that their interest is very early, and I think their ability to grasp basic concepts, it also starts at the grade school level. I think, and I've had, and thank you, Albert Whitman, for publishing my books, because when I first started doing this years ago, it was an uphill battle with some publishers. They was like, oh no, kids don't want this. It's, young kids, they don't get it, high school. And then you write these books for parents. And I don't think that's right. And the first two books that we published together did pretty well. And I'm hoping these will too. But yeah, kids get it. And parents should understand that kids get it and engage in these conversations early. And again, they don't have to be heavy-handed or didactic. They can be fun and conversational. And hopefully these books will inspire those kinds of conversations. But at least get the basic concepts down early on and reinforce them. That will really make their children much smarter managers of their finances when they become adults.
Yeah, and I think the great thing about Billy is, even when kids are really young at a very, very small age, like even toddler, they understand the concept of like something being traded, like, that
Yeah.
transactional concept. And I like that it's fish, not just money. So they
Yes.
don't understand
Yes.
money fully yet. It's
Yeah.
still that idea of like a transaction and you get what you
Exactly.
give kind of thing. And I think that's a
Exactly.
great way to introduce it to young kids. And you're right. They understand a lot more than we give them credit for.
They do. They absolutely do.
So, what is one of the few or most important things about finance in general that you think kids should be learning?
Yeah. So I think compounding again, the idea of, so let's face it, borrowing is usually when people get in trouble with their money. So, borrowing is not a bad thing. Taking out student debt can be a good thing. A mortgage debt can be a good thing. If you're building wealth, if you're getting something in value in return, that's going to help you build wealth over time. So understanding borrowing, it's not a bad thing, but it's something you need to be very careful with. Only do when it's what we call good debt, when it can lead to better financial outcomes, and you can afford to pay it back. Those are pretty basic. So that, and then again, the idea of compounding, which is essential really towards borrowing and saving, because when you borrow, your interest will compound. If you don't pay that debt back, the debt will get bigger and bigger and bigger. Similarly with saving, though, with these very low interest rates now, it's harder to teach that concept, at least with a bank account. But with savings over time, right? You paid your interest and you get the interest on the interest. And that was what Rock the Savings Shock was about as well. So compounding is really important. Understanding what is debt's good uses and bad uses, those are very important. And then just being aware. There are people out there who will rip you off, and so there's an old saying in finance: if it sounds too good to be true, it is. And so if somebody's coming to you and offering you a deal, give them $1 now, they'll give you $5 later. Nope, just run as fast as you can. And some of a couple of future books we'll be doing next year get to that theme. But really, I just think use your common sense, be wary, understand debt, and understanding compounding. Those are really three very important things.
Yeah, I mean, I love that about Billy, because he does learn at the end the idea of like saving first and then
Right.
saving, because
And then buying. Yeah,
exactly, and it's so relatable in real life. Like we just me and my partner bought our first car this year with the
Oh,
pandemic.
congratulations.
Thank you. But we had saved up for a long time, and we went in with a good amount down, so that
Yeah.
we didn't have a lot, to pay back, and we've overpaid, and we haven't paid our minimum for our loan and all those things that we kind of talk about in this book. You have to be able to do that if you
Yeah,
don't wanna get in that bad situation.
exactly. No, that's exactly right. That's very wise. Good. Maybe
Yeah,
we'll write a book about a car loan.
there we go. I'm sure there's some cute animal we could definitely have, loop around in the car. Now, while writing these books, was there something unique or memorable that you learned from either writing this new series compared to the other books that you wrote previously?
Yeah, yeah. Well, these are fantasy books, obviously. So one is on the Galapagos Islands. And so I researched the Galapagos and all the wonderful animals like lava lizard, the blue-footed booby I love. They dance and they're very interesting animals. I'm actually going to the Galapagos this winter because I'm dying now that I've researched it. Yeah, so I hope kids will find that is fun too. And the illustrator did an amazing job. And with Princess Persephone, I also researched Ganymede Mood a bit. So that was, it's an ice planet, and there has been speculation in the past. It's one of the few places that you might have some life, under the ice ocean. So that was kind of interesting. So yeah, it's that's a bit outside of my space, but I enjoyed doing a little research on those too. Not that these are believable books in any way, but except the background, the context is grounded a little bit in research and science. That is there too.
Exactly. I mean, we do a lot of books that are teaching very real life scenarios, but it is always fun in kids' books because you can get a little more creative and have
Exactly.
fun with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, do you have any examples of how readers can translate these lessons that they're learning from Money Tales into either, some simple activities or examples that, kids might be able to experience with, a teacher and educator? Like, is there any sort of savings type thing, or, something that they could actually do that's a tangible thing that they could take away from these books?
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, I think parents can, if they want to introduce the idea of debt, if their child wants something, saying they can borrow it with that perhaps out of their allowance for the next 10 times, they'll need to pay it back. Just the idea of how it works, how it should work, the good ways it work, the good and the bad ways it can work. I think, in classrooms as well, we all play store, but, you can build certainly the idea of a transaction where there's barter or play money for a particular good. I think that type of play kids really, really enjoy. And again, it's very, very good introduction to money. And you can build borrowing into that too. Again, borrowing is not a hard concept. You're going to give me some money now that I can use, and then I'm going to pay you back a little bit more later, and that little bit more is what you get for letting me have use of your money now. That's really not hard. That's pretty basic. I think, absolutely grade school kids can get that. And again, I think people, don't want to encourage borrowing, and anybody who knows me knows I'm not doing that. But nonetheless, borrowing is a fact of life. and introducing the concept early so kids understand how it works, when it makes sense to do it, and when you really shouldn't do it. I think that's really important, even at the grade school level.
Definitely. And yeah, like I said, I think it's the kind of thing where people are so scared of the idea of bar that they think it is all bad. And
Yeah,
it's very
exactly.
much like it doesn't have to be bad if you know your parameters,
Yeah,
if you know what you're working with, all of
exactly.
those
Yeah.
things. You just have to be pretty quick about it. And I do think once again, these are great books to have in a classroom because even when I was growing up, we didn't really learn these concepts.
Right.
Money was basic, just
Yeah.
money, and we didn't know
Yeah.
anything about, finances, how to
Yeah.
budget, how to do anything. So it's a good thing to start early on for kids to understand.
Yeah. Well, so, and if I could just add to so many young, I used to be a college president too, and so many young people, even at the college level, just didn't have a clue as to how to manage, a budget once they got away from home. So it really, parents do need to take this on and be responsible for it, and again, start early and make it a recurring theme in your family conversations. I think that's so important. For classroom use, there's a lot of math in these books too, so that's a nice side, I think, side benefit of the money lessons is because there's also a lot of math, but I think easy to grasp math, but math teachers might find it useful as well.
Definitely. And I think also with Princess Persephone, the idea of looking at a contract and reading a contract, that's a
Yes.
really great part of the book that,
Yes.
in the book, she doesn't do that. And that's what ends up, she doesn't realize that, this small amount that she got a loan for balloons because of all these
Yes.
different, restrictions on it. And that is
Right.
something that I think even adults really struggle with doing because contracts are confusing, by
They
nature.
are. They are.
So it is really a great thing to, I like that one of the characters like, you didn't have the lawyer look it over.
That's
But it's
right.
so true. Like, a
And
lot of
she's
people
that's
just
right. Her pet dragon saying, "Have the lawyer look at it."
I
Nah,
love the dragon as the voice of reason. He's
yeah.
like, wait a second, hold up. Like it's really, really cute, but it is true. Like,
It
even
is.
on an adult level, I know a ton of people that don't realize that and then like in the book get a bill and it's triple or
Yeah.
even more the amount. Um,
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
I think yeah, it's really great to have that. And that is another thing you could even I can see a bunch of kids drawing up like little contracts.
Yeah.
Standing them in classrooms and
See,
giving
they
them to each other. Like, spot the thing in the contract that you should ask a question about.
that's a great idea, actually.
Yeah, that'd be
They
really
would like that.
cute. Now,
Some kind of terms they can build in and
exactly.
get away with.
So, I will show the covers just because I do have arcs of the
Sure.
book. They're not, like I
Yeah.
said, they're not to the fall. But first, this is Princess Persephone loses the
There
castle.
she is. Yeah.
And then we have, of course, Billy the Barring Blue-Footed Booby. He's so cute there, and there's the
He is
seal
a cutie.
as well. So I do want to ask, what are your favorite either spreads or page from both of the first two books?
Yeah. So I think for Billy, I believe it's page 9, where he's up to 80 sardines. He started off with a 10 sardine loan and it keeps going up and up and up. So he's out fishing at night trying to get his 80 sardines, and he's just flat on his back on the rock, and the sardines are making fun of him. They're sticking their nose and
I
everything.
love that one
But
here.
it's just, yeah,
I can
there he is. But it's just, it's so indicative. He's slaving to get these sardines fished so he can make, the seal rich, really. He's just paying for the same umbrella over and over again by this compounding debt. So I do think it's a funny picture, but also it kind of says the foolishness of the trap he got himself into. Classic debt trap.
it's that kind of thing where in real life, it's people having to work 2 and 3 jobs because they've
To
racked
pay
up
off their
their
loans.
debt. So it's
Exactly.
totally
Exactly.
that relatable thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think on Princess Persephone, I believe it's page 15. And of course, this is the one where Anna, your pal, comes to her rescue. Not surprisingly, that's my favorite because I do identify with Anna, your pal. But it is
Great, like,
she. I wish it was easy for government regulators to really just have a have a magic robe to make it all go away. But she does in the book, and she does come to the rescue while being very firm with Persephone that she really should have read this contract or gotten help if she couldn't understand the contract.
Yeah, it'd be nice if regulation was as easy as waving a
It
wand.
was. It was.
Save a
That's
lot
for
of time
sure.
to have to write things and do it.
Yes. Yeah. Sue people. Yes.
It takes a little bit of time.
Yes, it does. It does.
Now, what do you hope that readers just to generally take away the most from this series?
Yeah, so again, I think just the idea of talking about money and finance, basic financial concepts, doing it at an early age. Read these books with your children, and there's nonfiction material in the back of the books that I think will also be particularly informative both for the children and the parents. And have conversations with them about that. Well, how did Billy get himself into this situation? Why did he keep buying things as opposed to paying his debt back? And a little about impulse control, which we all have trouble with it, whether you're a child or an adult, and buying on impulse. That a lot of this instant need for instant gratification is what leads to a lot of these financial. So I'm hoping that it'll precipitate really healthy conversations about that. But also, I hope they just have fun reading the books and laugh, because I laughed. I enjoyed writing them, and again with the illustrations, they were just really came to life. So I'm just thank you, Albert Whitman, for publishing these, and we hope a lot of families find them useful.
Definitely. And I do think it's really nice to have these books to discuss that instant gratification, because that is something that is so much more prevalent now with social media. Like,
Yes.
I'm an
Yeah.
Instagram and you can buy things directly out of there. And I think a lot
Yeah.
of people, or, a lot of the new rise of things are like pay now, pay later
Yes.
things that you can do even for like very basic things like clothing and things online, like stuff that,
Yeah.
that layaway concept that has become a huge thing now. And actually we've talked about it in the office and also with some folks that we have shown the book to, and a lot of them have said, this is great. These books are for, actually double check here in the back. I think they're ages 4 to 8, but we were talking about really these concepts can be used in older classrooms, even like high school students,
They could.
even like
Yeah.
adults.
Yeah.
I think there is still that very much a cultural thing of you don't talk about money and you don't talk
Yeah.
about finance, which
Right.
actually really only hinders people because it's a concept that a lot of folks struggle with. I know a lot of people in my generation, myself included, have struggled with the idea of like student loans and things like that, and not
Yeah.
knowing when we took out
Yes.
loans what they were, and it's very still, to get people to actually talk about the struggles of that is still kind of a hard thing to do. So introducing the idea of it's not a bad thing to talk about money and finance
Yes.
is a really great concept to instill in a new generation.
Yeah, exactly. You're empowering your children. You're not encouraging it. You're empowering them to understand it and be able to handle it responsibly. And you're right, $1.6 trillion of student debt. Boy, our kids are getting introduced to debt very early in their adult lives, aren't they? So that's another whole nother tragedy. But again, helping children and their parents prepare for that first, borrow, which will probably be their child's first borrowing decision, student debt is also really underscores the relevance and importance of these books.
Yeah, like I said, especially with Billy, like understanding, that
Yeah.
how interest works would have been, a game changer for a lot of me and
Yeah.
my generation when we were 18 even. Like, so
Yeah.
it is really great to see like these books that can still be used way past the age range on the actual book.
I think that's right. I hope that's right. And I think because they're picture books and they're written for children, but I think will be enjoyable by older children and adults as well. I think it makes the subject matter less intimidating. So, because a lot of financial basics adults don't understand either, but they're embarrassed to ask. To your point, nobody ever wants to talk about money. So, being able to through these books for their children, being able to get a few tidbits of information for themselves is also a healthy thing.
Yeah, because like they are so accessible in the way that they put, they're written because they are for kids, but
Right.
totally it's concepts that sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, wait, that is how that, like, that compound
Yeah.
interest, you forget, like, you're paying for the same thing, but you end up paying, 3, 4 times what it is.
Yes, exactly.
And a lot
Exactly.
of people just don't think about that.
They don't. They just, what do I have to? Yeah, what's my monthly payment? That's all. And they don't think about the cumulative effect. That's so true. So true.
Yeah. So we're so excited once again to release these books. I will show them once again. This is Princess Persephone Loses the Castle, and Billy the Barring Blue-Footed Booby. I always joke, try to say it 5 times fast, but it's
That's right. It's a tongue twister.
like I said, both of these books are picture books. They will arrive this September 2021 from Albert Whitman and Company. They'll arrive on September 1st, and you can order them now. Sheila, thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you, Lisa. I enjoyed it.
Of course, and keep tuned for more author chats from Albert Whitman and Company.
Great. Bye bye.
All right.